The handcuffs clicked shut around her wrists, cold metal biting into skin still wet from the rain. She didn't resist. Not when they called her a fraud. Not when the young guards laughed and whispered stolen valor as they led her past the morning formation. She just smiled. A quiet, knowing smile that made the arresting officer's hands tremble without understanding why. Norfolk Naval Station, November 15th, 2024. A freezing rain turned the world gray, washing everything in shades of steel and sorrow. They thought they'd caught a liar, a woman playing dress-up in a uniform she'd never earned. They had no idea they'd just arrested a ghost. The ferry horn echoed across the harbor like a funeral dirge. Kira Blackwood had stepped onto that dock 30 minutes earlier, rain soaking through her leather jacket, and she hadn't quickened her pace, hadn't sought shelter, just kept walking, one boot in front of the other toward a place she'd sworn she'd never see again. Her duffel bag hung heavy on her shoulder, not from the weight of clothes or supplies, from the weight of photographs, intelligence reports, evidence that would either save a life or end hers. She was 29 years old. She felt 70. The security checkpoint appeared through the rain, and she made no attempt to avoid it. In fact, she walked directly toward it, toward the armed guards, toward the scanners and cameras and all the systems designed to keep people like her out. Or rather, people like who she used to be. "Ma'am, stop right there." The guard was young, maybe 22. His hand rested on his sidearm, not threatening, just ready. His partner hung back, already reaching for his radio. Something in the way she moved had triggered his instincts. Something that said this woman was different, dangerous. Kira stopped. Rain ran down her face. She didn't wipe it away. "This is a restricted area. You need authorization to proceed." Slowly, deliberately, she reached into her jacket pocket. The young guard's hand tightened on his weapon. She could see his finger moving toward the trigger guard. Training, battling with uncertainty. She'd been there before. She knew that war. She produced a military ID card, worn at the edges, the laminated surface scratched from years of use. Years that weren't supposed to exist. She held it out. The guard took it, studied it under his flashlight. His frown deepened with every second that passed. "This ID expired 4 years ago." "I know." "Ma'am, you can't just walk onto a naval base with an expired, check the credentials." "Excuse me?" Her voice was calm, steady, the voice of someone who'd given orders under fire, who'd watched men die and kept moving because the mission demanded it. "Run them through your system. Call your commanding officer. Do whatever you need to do. I'll wait." The guard's partner had finished his radio call. 2 more figures emerged from the security building, moving fast. Military police. Their expressions had shifted from routine to hostile in the space of a heartbeat. "That's not going to happen." The young guard's voice carried an edge now. "You're coming with us." The taller MP grabbed her arm. His grip was firm, practiced. The grip of a man who'd done this 100 times before. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for attempting to access a restricted military installation with fraudulent credentials." Kira didn't resist, didn't argue, didn't explain. She'd known this moment was coming, had planned for it. Sometimes the only way through a locked door was to let them drag you through it. And for impersonating a naval officer, the MP's voice went cold, hard, specifically a Navy SEAL. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." As they cuffed her hands behind her back, she almost laughed. Almost. The irony was too perfect, too sharp. They were arresting her for pretending to be what she actually was, for wearing a title she'd earned in blood and sacrifice, and nights so dark she'd forgotten what daylight looked like. They led her past the security building, past the administrative offices, past a group of young female recruits running morning PT in the rain. The recruits stopped to watch, their faces twisted with contempt, with disgust, with the righteous anger of people who thought they knew the truth. "Stolen valor," one whispered. Loud enough to be heard, loud enough to wound. Pathetic. Kira heard it. Her jaw tightened. A muscle jumped in her cheek, but she kept walking. Some truths were too classified to defend. Some battles you won by staying silent. The interrogation room was exactly what she expected. Steel table bolted to the floor. Two chairs. One-way mirror taking up the entire back wall. Fluorescent lights that made everyone look sick and guilty, even the innocent, especially the innocent. She sat in the chair facing the mirror, hands still cuffed behind her back. Water dripped from her jacket onto the concrete floor. Drip, drip, drip. She counted them. 16 drips per minute. 45 minutes since they brought her in. 720 drips total. She'd learned to count things when the alternative was screaming. The door opened with a metallic screech that echoed off the concrete walls. Commander Vincent Ashford entered like a man who'd already decided she was guilty. 45 years old, 23 years in the Navy. The kind of career man who'd seen enough liars to spot them in his sleep, who'd interrogated enough suspects to know all the tells, all the tricks, all the ways people tried to slip through the cracks. He carried a thin file folder, not much in it. Her expired ID, a few notes from the arresting officers, maybe a preliminary background check that had turned up nothing because there was nothing to find. He sat across from her, didn't speak for a full minute, just studied her, taking in the way she held herself despite the cuffs, the controlled breathing, the stillness that wasn't nervousness but something else entirely, something that looked almost like peace. "You're telling me you were a SEAL?" His voice carried the particular skepticism of a man who'd never met a female operator in his entire career, who'd spent 2 decades in a world where women didn't exist in certain roles, where the very idea seemed impossible. Kira met his eyes, didn't blink, didn't look away. "I'm not telling you anything, Commander. I'm waiting for someone with the clearance to have this conversation." Ashford's jaw tightened. A vein pulsed in his temple. He wasn't used to being refused, wasn't used to suspects who seemed more in control of the interrogation than he was. "We've checked every record." He leaned forward. "There's no female on any SEAL team roster during your claimed service years. None. Zero. The database doesn't lie. That's because those records are classified beyond your clearance level." Convenient. Accurate. Ashford leaned back, studied her with new intensity, looking for the crack, the weakness, the moment where the story would fall apart. "You know what's interesting?" He pulled a photograph from the folder. "We get wannabes all the time. Guys who read books, memorize some lingo, maybe even get a fake trident tattoo." He slid the photo across the table. "They always slip up eventually. Wrong terminology, wrong protocol, wrong something." He paused, let the silence build. "But you haven't made a single mistake, not one. Every term you've used, every protocol you've referenced, every piece of knowledge you've demonstrated, it's all accurate, down to details that aren't in any book or website." He waited for her to take the bait, to explain, to defend. She said nothing. "That's impressive." "Thank you, but impressive doesn't make it true." Kira's gaze drifted to the one-way mirror. Someone was watching. Multiple someones, probably. Making calls, checking databases, trying to figure out who she really was, what she really wanted. Let them look. They wouldn't find what they were searching for. Not in any system they had access to. "Tell me about BUD/S training." Ashford's voice shifted. "Testing. You claim you completed it in 2016. Walk me through Hell Week." "No." "Excuse me?" "I said no. I'm not performing for you, Commander. Either get someone with appropriate clearance in here or charge me and let JAG sort it out." Ashford's eyes narrowed. His hands flattened on the table. The anger was controlled but present, simmering just beneath the surface. "You're facing federal charges. Impersonating a military officer carries serious penalties. Stolen valor is—" "I know exactly what the penalties are. Kira's voice cut through his lecture like a blade. Clean, sharp, final. I also know you're stalling while someone runs my biometrics through classified databases. She tilted her head slightly, a gesture so small it was almost imperceptible. How long until they hit the firewall? Something flickered in Ashford's expression. Uncertainty. Fear. She touched a nerve. Named something she wasn't supposed to know about. He recovered quickly. Let's try something else. BUD/S. Hell Week. Day 4. What happens? Kira exhaled slowly, looked at the ceiling, at the fluorescent lights that hummed with a frequency that set her teeth on edge. She could refuse again, could maintain silence, could wait for the person she'd come to see. But there was value in this test. Value in showing Ashford exactly how deep her knowledge went, how real her credentials were. Day 4 is surf torture. She spoke without looking at him. Winter cycle. Water temperature 58 degrees Fahrenheit. Hypothermia sets in around 90 minutes of continuous exposure. Instructors rotate you out at 87 minutes. They time it precisely. Punishment without liability. Ashford's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. A subtle straightening, a tension in his shoulders. The cold doesn't just hurt. Kira continued, her voice distant now, remembering. It rewrites your nervous system, makes you understand that pain is just information, that your body can endure what your mind thinks will kill you. Most candidates break on day 4, not from the cold, from realizing they have 3 more days of it ahead. She looked at him directly now. Anyone can read that online. Can they? Then tell me about the protocol change in 2014. Ashford frowned. What protocol change? Kira almost smiled. Almost. They changed the hypothermia monitoring after a near fatality, added continuous core temperature tracking via rectal thermometer. Not something they advertise in the recruitment brochures. Not something you'd find on any website or in any published material. Ashford sat back. His certainty was cracking. Just slightly, just enough. What about weapons? He gestured toward the wall where a framed photograph showed a SEAL team in full combat gear. The rifle in that photo. Tell me about that weapon. Kira didn't turn to look. She'd cataloged everything in the room within seconds of entering, had mapped exits and threats in potential weapons before they'd even closed the door. HK-416, 10.4-inch barrel, gas piston operating system instead of direct impingement. With that AAC suppressor, you're looking at sound reduction from approximately 167 decibels to around 127. She leaned forward. The cuffs rattled against the chair. Still loud enough to cause permanent hearing damage without protection, but quiet enough to maintain tactical awareness in close quarters. Ashford's poker face cracked. Just slightly. The suppressor also reduces muzzle flash by about 40%. Kira pressed. Which matters more than the sound signature in night operations? Flash gives away your position to anyone with line of sight. Sound just tells them you're somewhere in the area. Lucky guess. The ammunition. Kira's voice hardened. In the standard loadout for that configuration is 5.56mm MK262 Mod 1. 77 grain open tip match. Muzzle velocity around 2,750 feet per second from that barrel length. It became standard issue for certain units between 2010 and 2016. She held his gaze, unblinking. That specific ammunition was classified during those years, Commander. The civilian market didn't have access to performance specifications. So either I memorized highly classified technical data from sources that would themselves be classified, or I used it in combat, multiple times. Ashford stood abruptly, walked to the one-way mirror, stared at his own reflection, at whoever was watching from the other side. Who are you? His voice was quiet now, almost respectful. Someone you don't have clearance to know about. He turned back to her. Everyone leaves traces, records. documentation. If you really were what you claim, there would be something. There was. Kira's voice carried weight now, finality. Then it was erased, deliberately, completely, by someone with the authority to make people disappear from history. Why? Because sometimes the missions matter more than the people who run them. Because sometimes the only way to protect an operation is to bury everyone involved. She paused. Let the words sink in. Because dead operators don't ask questions. And officially, that's what I am. Dead. 5 years dead. Ashford opened his mouth to respond, but the door burst open before he could speak. A young officer stuck his head in. His face was pale, eyes wide. "Commander, you're needed outside. Right now." "I'm in the middle of..." "Sir, it's Admiral Thornton. He's here, personally, and he's asking about the prisoner." Ashford's expression shifted, something between shock and fear. Admiral Nathaniel Thornton wasn't the kind of man who showed up at interrogations. He was the kind of man who commanded fleets, who made decisions that affected thousands of lives, who hadn't been seen at this particular base in almost 3 years. "Keep her here," Ashford ordered. "Don't let anyone near her." He left. The door closed, the lock engaged with a heavy clunk. Kira sat alone in the room, listening to the drip of water from her jacket, counting seconds, breathing slowly, the way she'd been trained, the way she'd survived when survival seemed impossible. 23 minutes later, the door opened again. Everything changed. The room seemed to shrink around him, not because of his physical size. Admiral Nathaniel Thornton was average height, lean build, the kind of frame that came from decades of disciplined fitness rather than vanity. But his presence was something else entirely, a storm contained in human form. He wore service dress blue. His ribbons could have filled a wall. Silver eagles on his collar, 4 stars that caught the fluorescent light and seemed to glow. The weight of command in every deliberate movement. 62 years old, 40 years of service. A career that had taken him from the teams to the Pentagon and back. A man who'd made decisions that saved lives and cost them. Who'd sent young men and women into places where they might not return. Who carried those choices like stones in his pockets. The MPs who'd followed him in snapped to attention. Ashford, who'd re-entered behind the Admiral, stood rigid, his face pale, his hands trembling slightly. Thornton's eyes locked on Kira. His face betrayed nothing, but something flickered in those eyes. Recognition, memory, something that might have been grief. "Everyone out." His voice was quiet but carried absolute authority. The kind of voice you didn't question. The kind of voice that had ordered men into combat and sent ships to war. "Sir, she's..." Ashford hesitated for exactly 1 second. Then he left. The MPs followed. The door closed behind them with a heavy, metallic thud. Thornton walked slowly around the table, each step measured, controlled. He stopped directly in front of Kira. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the drip of water, the hum of fluorescent lights, the distant echo of the base beyond these walls. "Stand up." Not an order, a request. She stood. The cuffs made it awkward, but she managed, kept her balance, kept her dignity. "Roll up your left sleeve." Kira's jaw tightened. This was it. The moment that would either validate everything or condemn her as the fraud they thought she was. The moment 5 years of searching had led to. She unbuttoned her cuff, rolled the sleeve up slowly, past her wrist, past her forearm, to just below her elbow. There, inked into her skin, was a tattoo that no faker would dare replicate. Not the standard seal trident that thousands of operators wore with pride. This was different, modified, unique. A trident, yes, but with 7 small stars arranged around it in a specific pattern. Each one representing something that couldn't be spoken aloud, couldn't be written in any report, couldn't exist in any official record. Ink work that had been done by hand, not in a shop. The kind of tattoo given in field conditions with improvised equipment. The kind that hurt like hell and meant more than medals, more than rank, more than anything the Navy could officially recognize. Thornton stared at it for a long moment. His hand, steady as stone for 4 decades, trembled slightly. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "That tattoo is real." "Yes, sir, I gave you that tattoo myself." "Yes, sir, 5 years ago, November 2019, in a medical tent in Yemen, after a mission that officially never happened." Kira met his eyes, held his gaze. "After I watched Garrett die, after we lost Whitmore, after everything fell apart." Thornton was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out and removed her handcuffs himself. His hands were gentle, almost fatherly, the hands of a man who'd done this before, who'd freed prisoners and bound wounds and carried bodies off battlefields. "I thought you were dead," his voice cracked, just slightly. "I thought I'd lost you along with everyone else." "You didn't lose anyone, Admiral." "Didn't I?" He turned away, walked to the mirror, stared at his own reflection. "I sent your team into that mission knowing the intelligence was questionable. I prioritized the objective over your safety, and when Garrett died—" "Garrett made a choice," Kira said firmly. "He saw the RPG. He saw it was going to hit me, and he stepped in front of it. That was his decision, his sacrifice. Not your fault." She moved closer, close enough that she could see the lines around his eyes, the gray in his hair, the weight of years in decisions and losses that couldn't be measured. "And Whitmore, was that my fault?" Kira's expression hardened. "Whitmore is why I'm here." Thornton frowned, turned to face her fully. "Whitmore is dead. They confirmed what they wanted us to believe." She reached into her jacket, pulled out a waterproof envelope, the one she'd carried through rain and security checkpoints and 5 years of searching, the one that held everything she'd built, everything she'd risked. "I've been tracking intelligence for 18 months. She handed him the envelope. "He's alive, Admiral, being held at a facility near the Iran-Afghanistan border, and in 12 days, they're going to kill him." Thornton took the envelope, opened it with hands that suddenly seemed older, frailer. Inside were photographs, satellite imagery, intelligence reports printed on paper instead of viewed on classified networks. The kind of information that shouldn't exist, that couldn't be obtained through official channels. His face went pale as he studied the images. "That's not possible." The words came out strangled. "We confirmed he was killed in the ambush. We confirmed what they wanted us to confirm." Kira pointed to one photograph, a prisoner being moved between buildings, emaciated, beaten. But there on his visible forearm was the edge of a tattoo, a trident. "That's Petty Officer Ethan Whitmore, call sign Priest. 5 years in enemy hands, 5 years of torture, 5 years of holding out, refusing to break, waiting for someone to come." Her voice hardened with each word. "And in 12 days they're going to execute him, unless someone goes in and gets him out." Thornton sat down heavily. Suddenly he looked every one of his 62 years, every hour of every day of every year he'd carried this burden. An unsanctioned rescue mission into hostile territory against an enemy that's been planning for exactly this scenario. He looked up at her. "That's not a mission. That's suicide." "Probably. If you fail, it'll expose Project Phantom. Everything we did. Every operator still alive. They'll all be compromised." "I know. If I help you," Thornton's voice caught, "if I provide resources, personnel, support, it'll end my career. Court-martial at minimum, prison at maximum. Everything I've built for 40 years, gone." "I know." Kira paused, let the weight of it settle between them. "That's why I'm not asking you to help, Admiral. I'm asking you not to stop me." Thornton was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked up at her, really looked at her, saw the 21-year-old kid who'd walked into his office 9 years ago. Eyes bright with idealism, hands steady with determination. saw the 29-year-old woman standing before him now, forged in fire and guilt and determination that bordered on obsession. "Garrett was the best operator I ever trained," he said quietly, "until you came along." Kira felt the words hit her chest, felt the weight of them, the truth of them. "Garrett used to tell me you were going to be better than him, that you had something he didn't." "What?" "The ability to make impossible choices and live with them." Thornton stood up, extended his hand. "I've spent 5 years wondering if I made the right choice, erasing you, wondering if I should have fought harder, if I should have protected all of you instead of just saving who I could." He gripped her hand, firm, final. "I can't bring Garrett back. I can't undo what happened, but I can help you bring Whitmore home." "Thank you, Admiral." "Don't thank me yet, Captain. We might both hang for this." "Some things are worth hanging for." Thornton almost smiled. "Almost. Get yourself dried off and fed. Meet me at Building 7 at 2200 hours. I need to make some calls. Pull in some favors. Find us a team." Kira nodded, started toward the door. "Captain," she turned back, "for what it's worth, I never stopped believing in you. Every day for 5 years I've thought about your team, about Garrett, about what we lost, and what we owed. The past is done, Admiral. All we have now is forward." "Forward," he agreed. She left. The door closed behind her. Thornton stood alone in the interrogation room, staring at the photographs of Whitmore, at the evidence of 5 years of suffering, at the reminder of what his choices had cost. He pulled out his phone, started making calls, each one burning a bridge, calling in favors that couldn't be repaid, setting in motion something that would either save a life or destroy everything he'd ever built. The rain continued to fall outside. The ghost had returned, and now the real mission was about to begin. Building 7 sat at the edge of the base, the kind of structure that didn't appear on official maps. No signs, no markings, just a nondescript concrete building that could have been storage or maintenance or nothing at all. Kira arrived 15 minutes early, old habits, the kind that kept you alive when being on time meant being too late. She changed into dry tactical pants, black long-sleeve shirt, boots that had seen better days but still had miles left in them. Her hair was pulled back tight, no jewelry, no distractions, nothing that could catch or snag or give an enemy something to grab. The door was unlocked. She climbed the stairs to the second floor, each step echoing in the empty stairwell. At the top, light spilled from under a doorway. She could hear voices inside, low, measured, the sound of men who'd learned to speak quietly because loud voices got people killed. She pushed the door open. Admiral Thornton stood at a large table covered with maps and satellite imagery. 3 men waited in the shadows, and Kira felt their eyes on her immediately, assessing, judging, deciding if she was worth following into hell. "Captain Blackwood," Thornton's voice carried across the room. "Come in." She entered. The door closed behind her with a finality that felt like sealing a tomb. "Gentlemen, this is Captain Kira Blackwood, call sign Ghost, former Project Phantom. She's the mission commander for this operation." One of the men stepped forward into the light. 43 years old, medium build, hands that move with the careful precision of someone trained in trauma medicine. His eyes were intelligent, analytical, and deeply skeptical. "Petty Officer First Class Coleman Reeves," Thornton introduced. "Combat medic, 3 tours, Iraq and Afghanistan. If someone gets hit, he's the one who decides if they live or die." Reeves studied Kira with unconcealed doubt, his arms crossed over his chest. A defensive posture, a challenge. "No offense, ma'am." His voice was flat, professional. "But I've never operated with a female, not in combat, not ever." The room tensed, waiting for her response, testing how she'd handle the challenge, whether she'd get defensive or angry or try to prove herself with words instead of action. Kira met his eyes calmly. "Then let me show you why I'm still alive after 9 years of doing things that should have killed me." She moved to the table, pointed to the medical kit laid out among the equipment. Combat trauma, sucking chest wound. Walk me through treatment. Reeves's jaw tightened, but he answered. Three-sided occlusive dressing. Why three-sided? To prevent tension pneumothorax. Seal all four sides, trapped air collapses the lung. Time frame? Under 90 seconds or the patient goes critical. Correct. Now tell me the field expedient alternative when you don't have a chest seal. Reeves paused. This wasn't textbook material. This was the kind of knowledge you gained by watching someone die because you didn't have the right equipment. The kind you learn by improvising or losing a brother. Kira continued without waiting. Cellophane wrapper from an MRE packet. 100-mile-an-hour tape. You can create a functional chest seal in 15 seconds. She picked up the kit, demonstrating with her hands. But here's what they don't teach in medical school. You have to apply it during exhalation. Time it wrong. Tape it during inhalation. You trap air in the pleural space. Patient dies anyway, just slower. Reeves's expression flickered, interest replacing skepticism. Kira picked up a tourniquet from the kit. CAT tourniquet. Standard application is 2 inches above the wound. But in winter conditions, hypothermia becomes a factor. Do you place the tourniquet over clothing or against skin? Against skin, better pressure application. Wrong. Reeves blinked. Winter operations. You place it over the clothing. The fabric provides insulation. You expose skin to apply a tourniquet in sub-freezing temperatures. You're adding frostbite trauma to bleeding trauma. Patient goes into shock faster. She dropped the tourniquet back on the table. I learned that in the Hindu Kush. 2017. My medic went down with a femoral bleed. I had to work on him while suppressing enemy fire with my offhand. 15 degrees below zero. He lived because I understood the variables they don't put in manuals. Reeves was quiet for a long moment. Then he uncrossed his arms. Something like respect flickered in his eyes. Where'd you learn the chest seal trick? Watching a teammate die because we didn't have one. Improvise the next time. Never lost another man to a chest wound. Reeves nodded slowly, grudgingly. Okay, he said, I'm listening. The second man stepped forward, 39 years old, lean and rangy with the permanent squint of someone who'd spent years looking through rifle scopes. His movements were economical, controlled, every gesture serving a purpose. Chief Petty Officer Brennan McAllister, Thornton said. Sniper. 92 confirmed kills across 4 deployments. If you need someone dead at 1,000 meters, he's your man. McAllister's eyes were cold, professional, calculating. The eyes of a man who'd killed from distances where you couldn't see faces, couldn't hear screams, just watched through a scope as a target dropped and tried not to think about the person they'd been. Let's talk ballistics, Captain. Kira almost smiled. She'd been waiting for this. Your preferred caliber. .338 Lapua Magnum. Projectile weight 250 grain Sierra Match King. Ballistic coefficient .670. She moved to the map, pointed to the target compound. We're inserting here. 4,000 feet elevation. Winter conditions. Estimate 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Your primary overwatch position will be approximately 400 meters from the compound. 15-mile-per-hour crosswind from the west. Target is moving approximately 3 miles per hour east to west. She looked at him directly. Calculate your hold. McAllister's eyes narrowed. This was the real test. The math that separated amateurs from professionals. The difference between a clean kill and a wounded enemy who'd alert every hostile in a mile radius. At 400 meters, drop compensation is 2.1 mils, but at 4,000 feet elevation, air density is roughly 10% less than sea level. That reduces drag, flattens trajectory. Actual drop is 1.9 mils. He was watching her face, looking for any sign he was wrong, looking for the tell that would reveal she was bluffing. Wind deflection at 400 meters with 15-mile-per-hour crosswind is approximately 1.2 mils right. Need to account for the Coriolis effect at that latitude. Northern Hemisphere, target moving east to west. Add zero point 0.1 mil right. Kira nodded, waited. Temperature is critical. McAllister continued. Standard ballistic tables assume 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Every 20-degree drop reduces muzzle velocity by approximately 1%. 30-degree ambient means 40-degree temperature differential. 2% velocity loss. That adds roughly zero point 0.2 mils to the hold. He squared his shoulders, confident now. Total hold, 2.1 mils up, 1.5 mils right. Lead the moving target by 0.3 mils. First round, probability of hit, 87%. You forgot one variable. McAllister's jaw tightened. What? Powder temperature. Silence. Your ammunition will be sitting in sub-freezing conditions for the 12-hour insert. Cold powder burns slower, reduces muzzle velocity by an additional 3%. Your actual hold needs another 0.3 mils elevation compensation. Kira stepped closer to him. Without that correction, you're hitting low. Might wound instead of kill. In our operational environment, wounded enemies create more problems than dead ones. They scream, they call for help, they give away your position. McAllister stared at her for a long moment, then slowly his expression changed. Respect replacing skepticism, something almost approaching awe. I've been shooting for 18 years, he said quietly. Nobody's ever caught that variable before. I've made that shot in those conditions, on a target that mattered. Did you hit? I'm standing here, aren't I? McAllister extended his hand. Kira shook it. His grip was firm, a warrior's grip, the handshake of someone who just recognized an equal. I'd be honored to serve with you, Captain. The third man stepped forward, 36 years old, built like a boxer, compact and powerful. His hands were scarred from years of working with explosives. He moved with the careful confidence of someone who understood that one mistake could vaporize everyone in a 50-meter radius. Senior Chief Petty Officer Wyatt Sterling, Thornton introduced. Breacher, explosive ordnance specialist. Doors, walls, vehicles. If it needs to open, he makes it happen. Sterling didn't challenge her, didn't test her with questions. He just stood there with something approaching reverence in his eyes. Like he was meeting someone he'd heard stories about, someone who'd become legend. I heard about Ghost, he said quietly, urban legend in the teams. Operator who could move through hostile territory like smoke, who made impossible shots, who brought her people home no matter what. He paused. I thought you were a myth, honored to find out you're real. Then his expression darkened. Something shifted in his eyes, a shadow passing across the sun. Ma'am, I need to ask. Yemen. Is it true you left men behind? The room went silent. Reeves and McAllister tensed. Thornton's hand moved slightly, ready to intervene. This was the question that could break everything. The wound that had never healed. The guilt that drove every decision Kira had made for 5 years. Kira met Sterling's eyes directly. No flinching, no deflecting. Yes. The word hung in the air like smoke. Lieutenant Garrett Blackwood, my brother. Petty Officer Ethan Whitmore, call sign, Priest. Garrett died protecting me from an RPG round. Whitmore was captured because I chose to extract Petty Officer Donovan instead of staying to fight for him. Her voice was steady, but the pain underneath was evident. Raw, honest. I've lived with that decision every day for 5 years. I dream about it every night. I wake up and the first thing I think about is whether I made the right call, whether I could have saved them both, whether I should have died trying. She stepped closer to Sterling. So yes, I left men behind, and I'll carry that weight for the rest of my life, which is exactly why I'll never do it again, why I'm here, why I'm willing to risk everything to bring Whitmore home. Because I understand what it costs to leave someone behind. Her eyes hardened. And I won't pay that price twice. Sterling held her gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded. Something in his posture relaxed. The test was passed. That's good enough for me. I'm in. Sterling's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at it quickly, his face draining of color for just a fraction of a second. Then the mask was back. Professional. Calm. But Kira had seen it. The flicker of fear that didn't belong on an operator's face during mission planning. She filed it away. A data point. A warning sign. Something to address later when lives weren't hanging in the balance. Thornton stepped forward. We're all in. Now let's plan how we're going to do the impossible. They gathered around the table. 4 operators and an admiral who just committed treason. Maps and satellite imagery spread before them like a battlefield waiting to be conquered. Kira took point. This was her mission, her plan, her responsibility. Target location. She indicated the satellite image. Compound approximately 80 kilometers inside hostile territory. Mountainous terrain, winter conditions, heavy guard presence. She traced the perimeter with her finger. This isn't a standard prison. It's an intelligence facility designed specifically to hold high-value prisoners and extract information. 12-man quick reaction force, 4-hour rotating shifts, 2 guard towers with overlapping fields of fire, roving patrols on irregular patterns, motion sensors along the perimeter. Reeves leaned in, studying the images. How do we know Whitmore is even there? Kira produced more photographs, grainy but clear enough. A prisoner being moved between buildings, emaciated, beaten, but there on his forearm, the edge of a tattoo. A trident. This was taken 6 days ago. That's Ethan Whitmore. 5 years in enemy hands. Still alive, still holding out. How do you know he hasn't broken? McAllister asked. 5 years is a long time. Because if he had, we wouldn't be having this conversation. They're keeping him alive because he hasn't given them what they need. They're still trying to extract information about Phantom, about our operations, about classified mission parameters. Kira's voice hardened. But according to intercepted communications, they're done being patient. In 12 days, they're going to permanently disappear him. Which is a nice way of saying they're going to execute him and dump his body where no one will ever find it. She looked at each of them in turn. We have a 12-day window. After that, he's gone forever. Sterling pointed at the map. Entry points? 3 possibilities. Kira indicated each one. Front gate, obvious, heavily defended, suicide. She moved her finger. East wall, reinforced concrete, would require significant explosive breaching. Too loud, too much attention. Her finger traced to a small marking near the south side. Or here, drainage culvert, 28 inches in diameter, barely large enough for a person with full kit, but it's unguarded because they assume no one can fit through it. Can we fit? Reeves asked. I can, alone. McAllister shook his head. That puts you inside without backup. If you're compromised, we can't reach you in time. If I'm compromised, the mission is over anyway. This works because they're not expecting a solo infiltration. They're prepared for a team assault. Helicopters, explosions, the standard rescue playbook. Kira met his eyes. They're not prepared for one person moving like a ghost. Thornton spoke up. Timeline? 18-minute window between guard rotations. I enter at 0200 hours when shift change occurs. Fatigue is highest. Attention is lowest. I have 18 minutes to infiltrate, locate Whitmore, and reach the extraction point before the next patrol cycle. That's impossibly tight, Sterling said. It has to be. Any longer and we're exposed. Their quick reaction force response time is approximately 8 minutes once an alarm is raised. We need to be moving toward extraction before they can organize a proper response. She pulled out another set of documents, equipment lists, meticulously detailed, every item chosen for a specific reason. Primary weapons, HK-416 with surefire suppressors, gas piston system for reliability in cold weather, barrel length 10.4 inches for close quarters work. Ammunition is 5.56 millimeter MK262 Mod 1, 77 grain. McAllister was nodding, recognizing the expertise in every detail. Sidearms, Glock 19 Gen 4, loaded with 147 grain Federal HST subsonic, 990 feet per second muzzle velocity, stays subsonic, no sonic crack. If we need pistols, we need to stay quiet. She looked at Sterling. Breaching equipment, linear-shaped charges for precision cutting, det cord for door frames. We're not announcing our presence with massive explosions. Surgical entries only. Sterling pulled the demo gear toward him, examining it with professional appreciation. These will work. Minimal overpressure, maximum cut efficiency. I can breach doors in under 30 seconds. Medical. Kira indicated the trauma kit. Cat tourniquets, quick clot, combat gauze, chest seals, hypothermia prevention gear. We're operating in winter conditions. Exposure kills as fast as bullets. She paused, letting them absorb the details. Insertion method, halo jump, high altitude, low opening. Exit altitude 28,000 feet, free fall for approximately 90 seconds. Deploy canopies at 3,500 feet. Fly to the landing zone under cover of darkness. Reeves raised an eyebrow. That's a hell of a jump. It's the only way to insert without detection. We exit over neutral airspace, fly into hostile territory under canopy. By the time we're visible on any radar, we're already on the ground. Thornton leaned forward. Extraction plan? Once I have Whitmore, we move to the coast. 15 kilometers overland. RIB waiting offshore with a SEAL support crew. They extract us to a submarine in international waters. From there, we're home. That's a long walk, Sterling observed. Carrying a wounded man. Being pursued by hostiles who know exactly where we're going. Which is why we need to move fast and stay ahead of pursuit. McAllister provides rear security with long-range precision fire. Sterling rigs delay charges. We make them pay for every meter they chase us. Kira straightened up, looked at each of them directly. This is not a sanctioned mission. If we're captured, the United States government will disavow any knowledge of our existence. We'll be tried as spies or terrorists. No prisoner exchange. No diplomatic solution. Just us and whatever they decide to do to us. If we fail, Thornton added, Project Phantom gets exposed. Every operator still alive becomes a target. I face court-martial. My career ends. Possibly my freedom. So we don't fail, McAllister said simply. We don't fail. Kira agreed. Thornton stepped back from the table. I've arranged transportation. C-130. The crew thinks it's a training exercise. The submarine is USS Virginia. Captain owes me his career. He'll be at the extraction point. He looked at each of them. Beyond that, you're on your own. No air support, no backup, no rescue. You'll be operating in denied territory with no official cover. Understood, sir, Kira said. Sterling leaned back, studying the plan with a critical eye. Then he spoke. One question, Captain. Why now? You've had 5 years. Why wait until there's only a 12-day window? Why cut it this close? Kira met his gaze steadily. Because for 4.5 years, I didn't know he was alive. I thought Whitmore died with Garrett. It took me 18 months to even pick up the first hint that maybe he'd survived. Another year to confirm it. Another 6 months to locate him and gather enough intelligence to make a rescue feasible. She paused. This isn't a rush job, Senior Chief. This is 5 years of hunting, gathering intel, building a network of sources. 5 years of preparation coming together in a 12-day execution window. Sterling nodded slowly, satisfied, but then something changed in his expression. A flicker of something. Doubt. Conflict. It passed so quickly Kira almost missed it, but she'd been trained to read people, to see the tells that others overlooked. "Senior Chief, something on your mind?" He hesitated, just a fraction of a second too long. "No, ma'am, just thinking about what we're risking. What happens if things go wrong? If you need to step back?" "No." His voice was firm, too firm. "I'm in, all the way, just needed a moment." Kira studied him. Something felt off, but she couldn't identify what. And they didn't have time for doubt, didn't have time to second guess or hesitate or let fear creep in. "We launch in 12 hours. Get your gear sorted. Get your head sorted. Rest if you can. At 2200 tomorrow, we're wheels up." She looked at each of them one final time. After that, there's no turning back. The team dispersed. Sterling left first, moving quickly toward the door, his phone already in his hand. McAllister and Reeves followed, talking quietly about equipment configurations and ammunition loads. Thornton and Kira remained. "You did well," he said quietly. "They trust you. That's not easy to earn." "They don't trust me yet. They trust that I know what I'm doing. Real trust comes later, after I prove I can bring them home." "You will. You don't know that." "I do." Thornton moved closer. "Because you're the best tactical operator I've ever trained. Because you have something to prove. Because you're not doing this for glory or recognition. You're doing it because it's right." He paused. "That makes you dangerous, in the best possible way." Kira was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that had been weighing on her. "Admiral, why did you really erase me? The full truth?" Thornton's expression was pained. "I told you. Political pressure, the purge, protecting what I could. That's not all of it." He sighed, sat down heavily, suddenly looking every one of his 62 years. "You're right, that's not all of it." He stared at his hands, hands that had signed orders and pulled triggers and carried wounded men off battlefields. "When you came back from Yemen, when I saw what had happened to your team, I saw my own failure. I sent you in on questionable intelligence. I prioritized the mission over your safety, and Garrett died because of it. Whitmore was captured because of it." His voice cracked. "I couldn't face that, couldn't face you. Every time I looked at you, I saw Garrett taking that RPG, saw Whitmore being dragged away, saw my decisions coming home to roost." He looked up at her. "So I erased you, not just to protect you, to protect myself from the reminder, from the guilt, from having to look into the eyes of the one person who survived and know that I'd failed her." Silence, heavy and profound. Kira walked over, sat across from him. "Garrett's death wasn't your fault, Admiral. He saw the RPG, he saw it would hit me, and he made a choice. That was his decision, his sacrifice." Her voice softened. "Whitmore ordered me to save Donovan. Those were his last words before they took him. Get him out, that's an order. He made a choice too. I'm the one who listened. I'm the one who left him." She reached out, touched his arm. "We all made choices that day. Some of us died for them. Some of us have to live with them. Neither is easier." Thornton looked at her, saw the young woman who'd lost everything and was still fighting. "Then help me fix it," she said. "Help me bring Whitmore home. Not because it'll absolve us, not because it'll make the guilt go away, but because it's the right thing to do, because we owe him, because no one else is coming." Thornton stood, extended his hand. "Then let's make it right." They shook, a promise, an oath, a commitment to see this through no matter the cost. Kira left Building 7 and walked into the night. The rain had stopped. Stars were visible between the clouds. She thought about Garrett, about Whitmore, about the team that had been her family, now scattered or dead or imprisoned. "I'm coming, Ethan," she whispered to the stars. "Hold on just a little longer." Somewhere in the darkness, Wyatt Sterling stood alone. In his hand, a photo of Addison, taken 3 months ago, before they took her, before his world ended. She was smiling in the photo, gap-toothed, holding a soccer trophy, looking at him like he was a hero. He closed his eyes, made the call. His voice was low, conflicted, broken. It's happening. 12 hours. They're coming for Whitmore. The voice on the other end was cold, emotionless. Understood. Let them come. We'll be ready. Sterling's hands shook. I have a daughter. You promised she'd be safe. Your daughter remains unharmed as long as you do what we agreed. Let them walk into the compound. After that, it's out of your hands. Sterling closed his eyes, felt the weight of impossible choices crushing his chest. God forgive me. He ended the call, stood alone in the darkness, a man caught between loyalty and love, between duty and desperation. They had taken Addison 3 months ago, sent him proof of life, told him exactly what he needed to do to keep her breathing. Now he had to live with it. 12 hours until Wheels Up. 12 hours until he betrayed everyone who trusted him. 20 hours until good people walked into a trap because he'd sold them out to save the one person who mattered more than honor. He thought about Addison's smile, about her laugh, about the way she called him daddy like he was a hero. Some heroes betrayed their brothers to save their children. He'd have to live with being that kind of hero. The countdown had begun, and none of them, except Sterling, knew that the mission was already compromised before it had even started. The C-130's cargo hold smelled of hydraulic fluid and old canvas, a smell that lived in the memory of every operator who'd ever jumped from one. The smell of missions and mistakes and men who'd gone out and never come back. Kira sat closest to the jump door, running through the plan again in her mind. Every detail, every contingency, every second of the 18-minute window mapped out like a choreographed dance where one misstep meant everyone died. Reeves sat across from her, checking his medical kit for the 100th time. His hands moved with practiced precision, touching each item like a priest handling sacred relics. Tourniquets, chest seals, quick clot, the tools that stood between life and death in the moments when seconds mattered more than skill. McAllister had his rifle broken down, inspecting each component with the obsessive attention of a man whose life depended on mechanical perfection. The bolt, the firing pin, the scope mounts, everything had to be flawless, because at 400 meters, a single loose screw could mean the difference between a clean kill and a wounded enemy who'd alert the entire compound. Sterling sat apart from the others, staring at nothing. His hands were clasped between his knees, white-knuckled, trembling despite the heated cargo hold. His jaw worked silently, as if he were arguing with himself, having a conversation no one else could hear, making a decision that had already been made for him. The aircraft's engines droned at a pitch that made conversation difficult. Not that anyone was talking. This close to the jump, words felt superfluous, meaningless. Every operator was in their own head now, running their own checklist, making peace with whatever gods they believed in. Kira watched Sterling. Something about him had been wrong since the briefing. The way he avoided eye contact, the way his hands trembled slightly when he thought no one was looking, the way he'd volunteered too quickly, agreed too easily, shown too much enthusiasm for a mission this dangerous. She'd seen men break under pressure before, seen the signs of someone carrying weight they couldn't bear. Sterling had all of them, but they were committed now. 20,000 feet above hostile territory, 6 hours from the drop zone, too late for second thoughts, too late for anything except moving forward and hoping the mission survived whatever was broken in Sterling's head. The loadmaster appeared, making his way down the hold with the careful steps of a man who'd done this 1,000 times. He held up 10 fingers. 10 minutes to pre-breathe. Kira connected her oxygen hose. The flow started immediately. 4 liters per minute of pure oxygen, flushing nitrogen from her bloodstream. At 28,000 feet, the air was too thin to sustain consciousness. Jump without proper oxygen saturation, and you'd pass out during freefall. Wake up dead if you woke up at all. She watched the others connect their hoses. Reeves first, moving with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before. Then McAllister, his movements economical, wasting no energy on unnecessary motion. Sterling fumbled with his connection. His hands were shaking badly enough that Reeves had to help him. The medic's face showed concern as he locked the hose in place. "You good, Senior Chief?" "Fine." Sterling's voice was too tight, just cold. It wasn't cold. The cargo hold was heated, but Reeves didn't push it, didn't have time to push it. The loadmaster was already moving back toward them, making the 5-minute signal. Kira made a decision. After the mission, she'd deal with whatever was eating Sterling. Right now, she needed him functional. Needed all of them functional. The mission came first. Always. "Final check," she said, her voice cutting through the engine noise. "Sound off." Reeves. "Ready." McAllister. "Ready." Silence from Sterling. Sterling. "Ready." The word came out strangled, forced, like he was choking on it. Kira turned to face him, met his eyes directly. "Senior Chief, whatever's in your head right now, leave it on this aircraft. When that door opens, I need you present. I need you focused. Can you do that?" Sterling held her gaze. For a moment, she saw something in his eyes. Guilt, fear, desperation. Something that looked almost like an apology. Then it was gone, buried beneath layers of training and discipline, and the mask every operator learned to wear. "Yes, ma'am, I'm good." But as Kira turned away, Sterling's hand moved to his pocket, to the phone that shouldn't have had signal at 20,000 feet, but somehow did. To the message that had come through an hour ago. 3 words that burned like acid. "Remember your daughter." His fingers trembled as he deleted it. The 100th time he deleted it. The 100th time it didn't matter because the message was carved into his brain, into his soul. Addison, 8 years old, blonde hair, her mother's eyes, the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. And he was about to betray everyone who trusted him to keep her breathing. God forgive me, he thought, but he knew God wouldn't. Some sins were too heavy for forgiveness. She didn't believe him, but she nodded anyway. Turned back to face the door. The loadmaster gripped the door handle. 30 seconds. Kira's hand found the ripcord handle, muscle memory confirming its position. She thought about Whitmore. 5 years in a cell. 5 years of torture. 5 years of holding on, refusing to break, waiting for someone to come. Waiting for her. "I'm coming, brother. Hold on." 15 seconds. The door opened. The world exploded with sound and wind. The slipstream tore at her, trying to rip her out before she was ready. The temperature plummeted. -40 degrees outside. The kind of cold that didn't just chill. It burned. It killed. She looked out into darkness. 28,000 feet below, the earth was invisible. Just blackness and stars, and the thin line of horizon where the two met. She was about to fall into nothing, about to trust physics and fabric and training to keep her alive. 10 seconds. Green light. Go, go, go! Kira stepped into nothing. The wind hit her like a physical thing, tore the breath from her lungs, spun her for half a second before training took over, and she arched, stabilizing. Arms out, legs spread, falling at terminal velocity toward an earth she couldn't see. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Behind her, 3 more bodies tumbled into the void. She couldn't see them yet, couldn't hear anything but wind, but she knew they were there. The weight of responsibility settling onto her shoulders like lead. 15 seconds into the fall, Reeves appeared on her left, tracking through the darkness. Then McAllister on her right. Then Sterling below and behind. 4 operators falling together, a formation held by skill and faith, and the shared understanding that separation meant death. The altimeter on her wrist glowed green. 26,000 feet, 24,000, 22,000. falling at 120 miles per hour, the Earth rushing up to meet them. Kira watched the numbers tick down, watched the GPS track their position, watched the wind drift them exactly as she'd calculated. She'd done the math right. Now she had to hope physics agreed. 18,000 feet, 16,000, 14,000. The darkness below began to take shape. Terrain features emerging, mountains, valleys, the thin ribbon of a road cutting through wilderness. 10,000 feet, 8,000, 6,000. Kira's hand moved to her ripcord. Not yet. Wait for the exact altitude. Deploy too high and you're visible too long. Deploy too low and you don't have time to fix malfunctions. 4,000 feet, 3,800, 3,600, 3,500. Now. She pulled. The pilot chute deployed, dragging the main canopy out of her pack. She felt the tug, the opening shock, the sudden deceleration from terminal velocity to 15 miles per hour. Above her, the MC-6 canopy blossomed, black fabric against black sky, nearly invisible. She grabbed the toggles, checked for malfunctions. All good. Full flight, controllable. Around her, 3 more canopies deployed. Reeves, McAllister, Sterling. All good, all flying, all tracking toward the landing zone. The ground rose to meet them. Kira flew the canopy with practiced precision, spiraling down, trading altitude for position. 200 feet, 150, 100. She flared, converting forward speed into lift. Touchdown, soft, feet, knees, roll. Combat landing, up immediately, hand on rifle, scanning for threats. Nothing. Clear. Reeves landed 10 meters to her left, then McAllister, then Sterling. They moved like shadows, collapsing their canopies, burying them in the rocky soil. Evidence of their insertion disappearing into the earth. Rally point, Kira said quietly into her radio. 30 seconds, weapons hot. They converged on her position. 4 ghosts in the darkness, night vision turning the world into shades of green. She checked her GPS. 8 kilometers to the compound. 2 hours to cover the distance moving tactically. They were on schedule. She looked at her team, made eye contact with each. We're on the ground, phase 1 complete. From here we move silent. No comms unless absolutely necessary, hand signals only. They nodded. Sterling's face was unreadable behind his night vision, but his hands were steady now. The jump had centered him, or the fear of what was coming had frozen him into functionality. Sterling, you're on point. McAllister, rear security. Reeves, stay with me. Sterling moved out. The others followed. They ghosted through the terrain like smoke. Each step placed carefully, each movement measured. Sound discipline absolute. This was what they'd been trained for, what they'd spent years perfecting. The ability to move through hostile territory without leaving a trace. An hour into the movement, Sterling raised his fist. Freeze! Kira dropped to a knee. Rifle up. Scan the area ahead. 4 figures moving along a ridge 200 meters to their east. Patrol. Armed. Professional. The way they moved said military training. Real experience. Not militia or irregulars. The team melted into the rocks, becoming part of the landscape. Kira controlled her breathing. Watched the patrol pass. Watched them disappear over the ridge. She waited 10 minutes, making sure they were truly gone. Making sure there wasn't a second element trailing behind. Move. They continued. Another hour of careful movement through hostile territory. Every sense heightened. Every nerve on edge. The compound appeared ahead, exactly where the satellite imagery had shown it. Guard towers, perimeter fence, roving patrols, everything matching the intelligence. Too perfect, too exact. The thought nagged at her again. Intelligence was never this accurate, never this clean. But she pushed the doubt aside. They were committed. The only way out was through. Overwatch positions, she whispered into her radio. McAllister, North Ridge, 400 meters. You have eyes on both guard towers. Reeves, Sterling, South Perimeter, 200 meters. Cover my extraction route. Copy, McAllister responded. Copy, Reeves said. Sterling said nothing. Sterling, confirm. A pause, long enough to be noticeable. Copy. His voice was strange, hollow, like it was coming from far away. Kira checked her watch. 15 minutes until the shift change. 15 minutes until the 18-minute window opened. 15 minutes until she'd be inside that compound with no backup and no way out except forward. She stripped down to essential gear, rifle across her back, sidearm on her hip, knife, radio, minimal load, maximum mobility. She looked at the compound one last time, at the point of no return. McAllister's voice came through. In position. I have eyes on the compound. 2 guards in the north tower, 2 in the south. Roving patrol just entered the west side. They're on a 12-minute circuit. Reeves, in position. South perimeter looks clear. I count 6 guards visible from my angle. Sterling, silence. Sterling, respond. Another pause. In position. Still that hollow voice. Still that wrongness she couldn't identify. Kira pushed it aside. Focus. The mission was everything. She moved to the drainage culvert, 28 inches in diameter, barely large enough for her to fit through. She stared into the darkness beyond. 1:58. 2 minutes. I'm coming, Ethan. 200 hours. She entered. The culvert was claustrophobic. Dark water dripping from above. The smell of concrete and rust in stagnant water. She low-crawled through the tunnel, pulling herself forward with her elbows, rifle dragging beneath her. Every sound amplified in the enclosed space, every breath echoing, every movement a potential alert. 30 meters of absolute darkness. 30 meters where one wrong sound could alert the guards. 30 meters where backup couldn't reach her, where she was alone with her training and her determination and the promise she'd made to a man she'd left behind 5 years ago. She emerged in a maintenance area beneath the main compound, exactly where intelligence said she'd find it. Too accurate, too clean. The thought screamed at her again, but she pushed forward. Up the stairs, one level up to the cell blocks, she found the corridor, long, concrete, cell doors every 10 feet. She moved down the corridor silently, checking each cell through the small windows. Empty. Empty. 2 prisoners she didn't recognize. Then the last cell on the right. She looked through the window. Ethan Whitmore sat on the concrete floor, back against the wall. He was thin, emaciated. His face showed the marks of years of abuse. His hands were scarred from restraints. But his eyes were still alive, still sharp, still unbroken. He looked up, saw her face in the window. His eyes widened. Ghost. His voice was a croak. Damage from years of screaming and silence. You came. Always, priest. She worked the lock. 30 seconds of careful manipulation. The skills learned in a different life. The door swung open. She knelt beside him, checked his condition. He was weak, malnourished, but alive. Can you walk? He tried to stand, made it halfway up before his legs gave out. 5 years of captivity had stolen his strength. I'll carry you if I have to. But then Whitmore grabbed her arm. His grip was surprisingly strong. His eyes were wild with fear, with urgency, with knowledge that changed everything. Ghost, stop. This is a trap. Her blood went cold. What? They knew someone would come. They'd been planning for it. The compound, the security, the intelligence you received. It's all bait. Kira's mind raced. The perfect intel, the convenient culvert, Sterling's strange behavior. Oh God, how do you know? They told me, showed me the plan. They wanted me to know that whoever came for me would die. Wanted me to live with that. He pulled her closer. You have to get out. Now, before they spring the trap. Kira keyed her radio. Her voice was steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. Hawk, demo, mission is compromised. I repeat, mission is compromised. We're walking into an ambush. Abort! Get to the extraction point. Static. Then Sterling's voice came through. Broken. Destroyed. I can't abort, Ghost. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Kira's heart stopped. Sterling, what did you do? Silence, then barely a whisper. They have my daughter. The corridor lights blazed bright. Alarms screamed. The sound of boots pounding on concrete echoed from both ends of the hallway. A sound like thunder, like the end of the world. They took Addison 3 months ago. Sterling's voice was cracking. Showed me videos. Told me exactly what they'd do to her if I didn't cooperate. I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. Kira grabbed Whitmore, hauled him to his feet. Her mind was racing, calculating, adapting. The mission had just gone from rescue to survival, from careful planning to pure reaction. McAllister's voice cut through, calm despite the chaos. I see movement, a lot of movement. They're converging on the main building. Ghost, they knew exactly where you'd be. Reeves came through next. We're compromised. QRF is mobilizing from the east. I count 30+ hostiles. Sterling sold us out, Kira said. Her voice was hard. They have his daughter. Silence on the radio. The kind of silence that came from men processing betrayal. From operators realizing they'd been compromised before the mission even started. Then McAllister's voice, cold as ice. Copy. What are your orders? Kira looked at Whitmore, at the man she'd spent 5 years trying to find, at the promise she'd made to bring him home. We fight our way out. She keyed the radio again. Hawk, I need a distraction. Big one. Give me chaos. On it. Through the walls, she heard the first shot. McAllister's rifle. The distinctive crack of a .338 Lapua round traveling at supersonic velocity. Then another. Then another. Screams outside. Confusion. The sound of a professional sniper tearing through their carefully laid trap. Reeves, Sterling, I'm coming out the south entrance. Be ready for extraction. Copy, Reeves responded. Sterling said nothing. Kira pulled Whitmore toward the stairs. He tried to help, tried to move on his own, but 5 years had stolen everything. His muscles were wasted, his coordination gone, his body a shell of what it had been. Lean on me, we're getting out of here. Ghost, leave me, save yourself. Not happening, not today, not ever. She half carried, half dragged him down the stairs, into the basement, toward the culvert. But the culvert was blocked now. Guards pouring in from both sides, the trap closing. She changed direction, headed for the south entrance, the one Reeves was supposed to be covering. She burst through the door, Whitmore on her shoulder, rifle in her free hand. 3 guards directly ahead. She fired without hesitation. 3 rounds, 3 bodies dropped. Training overriding thought. Muscle memory taking over when there was no time for conscious decision. More guards coming from the left. She swung Whitmore behind a concrete barrier, laid down suppressive fire, brass casings flying, magazine emptying. Reload. 2 seconds, back in the fight. Reeves, where are you? 50 meters south. I'm moving to you. Explosions rocked the compound. Sterling, despite everything, despite the betrayal, he was still fighting, still trying to give them a chance, creating chaos with the explosives he'd planted as insurance. Reeves appeared, firing as he moved, professional, controlled, exactly the operator she'd hoped he was. Ghost, we need to move now. Whitmore can't run. Then we carry him together. They lifted Whitmore between them, started moving toward the perimeter. McAllister's voice came through the radio. I've got 20 hostiles down, but they're adapting, finding cover. I can't hold them forever. Just give us 5 minutes, Kira said. Get to the extraction point. Negative, I'm not leaving until you're clear. Hawk, that's not negotiable, Captain. Kira didn't argue. There wasn't time. They reached the perimeter fence. Sterling was there. His face was a mask of anguish. Blood on his hands, not his own. The blood of enemies he'd killed while betraying the only family that mattered. I rigged the charges, he said. His voice was broken. I can blow the fence. Kira looked at him, at the man who'd betrayed them, at the father who'd tried to save his daughter, at the operator who was trying to earn back what he'd thrown away. Do it. Sterling triggered the detonator. The fence section exploded outward, metal twisting, concrete fragmenting, a gap wide enough to run through. They ran through the opening, into the darkness beyond, into the wilderness that would either save them or kill them. Behind them, the compound erupted with activity. Vehicles starting, dogs barking, the hunt beginning. The enemy realizing their trap had failed, that the prey had escaped, that they'd underestimated the ghost. McAllister, we're clear of the perimeter. Get out now. Copy. Moving. They pushed into the forest. Whitmore between Kira and Reeves. Sterling bringing up the rear. Every step taking them farther from the trap, closer to survival. But the sounds of pursuit were growing, getting closer, and they still had 15 kilometers to go. Kira looked at Whitmore, at his gray face, his labored breathing, the way his body was failing even as his spirit refused to break. Stay with me, Ethan. I'm trying. His voice was barely a whisper. I've been waiting 5 years for this. I'm not dying now. Damn right you're not. They ran through darkness with death at their heels. Whitmore was fading fast, his weight growing heavier with each step as his body surrendered to 5 years of abuse. Kira felt his grip weakening on her shoulder, felt the tremors running through his frame. Stay with me, Ethan. Don't you dare quit. Trying. Legs won't listen. Reeves shifted his grip, taking more of Whitmore's weight. His core temp is dropping. Hypothermia is setting in. We need to stop and warm him up or we're going to lose him. We can't stop. They're right behind us. McAllister's voice crackled through the radio. Ghost, I count 12 hostiles 300 meters in closing. They've got dogs. Dogs? That changed everything. You couldn't hide from dogs. Couldn't mask your scent in freezing temperatures. The animals would track them straight to their position, no matter how carefully they moved. How long until they reach us? 8 minutes, maybe less. Kira's mind raced through options. None of them good. All of them ending in blood. Sterling, he was there, moving beside them, his face visible in the ambient light. The face of a man who knew he'd crossed a line he could never uncross. I need you to slow them down. How? The claymores. Set them along our back trail, overlapping fields of fire. Make them pay for every meter. Sterling nodded, didn't hesitate, didn't argue, just started pulling mines from his pack. Give us 10 minutes, Kira said, then catch up. Sterling met her eyes. She saw the acceptance there, the understanding that redemption sometimes cost everything. And if I can't catch up, then you die knowing you gave us a chance. Sterling almost smiled. Almost. Tell Addison, his voice broke. Tell her I loved her. Tell her everything I did was for her, even the wrong things, especially the wrong things. Tell her yourself, 10 minutes, Sterling, then you run. He disappeared into the darkness behind them. Kira pushed forward, Reeves beside her, Whitmore between them. 3 minutes later, they reached a river, chest deep, freezing, the kind of cold that stopped hearts. We have to cross. It'll break the scent trail. Buy us time. Reeves looked at Whitmore. He won't survive immersion. His core temp is already critical. He won't survive if they catch us either. Whitmore lifted his head. His eyes were glassy but determined. Do it. I didn't wait 5 years to die on a riverbank. Kira went first, testing the current. Strong, but manageable. She waded in. the cold hitting her like a physical blow, every nerve screaming, every muscle seizing. She pushed through, reached the far bank, established security. Bring him across. Reeves entered the water with Whitmore. The cold hit Whitmore and he gasped, his body convulsing. Reeves held him tight, fighting the current, fighting hypothermia, fighting time itself. They made it across, barely. Whitmore collapsed on the bank, shaking uncontrollably. His lips were blue, his breathing shallow. Reeves, work on him. I'll cover. Reeves stripped Whitmore's wet clothes, wrapped him in a thermal blanket, activated chemical heat packs, placed them at his core, his armpits, his groin, anywhere that would warm blood before it circulated to vital organs. Come on, Ethan, stay with me, stay with me. Behind them, across the river, explosions erupted. Sterling's claymores. The screams that followed were inhuman, cut short. Then gunfire, sustained, professional. Sterling was still fighting. McAllister's voice came through. Hostiles at the river. Sterling engaged. He's holding them, but he's taking fire. How many did the claymores get? Hard to count, at least 8 down. But there's more coming, a lot more. Kira looked at Whitmore, at Reeves working desperately to keep him alive, at the river between them and Sterling. Whitmore, can you move? Give me a minute. We don't have a minute. He forced himself up, grabbed her arm, used her as a crutch. Then give me 30 seconds. They started moving again, slower now. Whitmore was trying. God, he was trying. But his body was betraying him with every step. More gunfire behind them. Then a sound that made Kira's blood freeze. Sterling on the radio, his voice tight with pain. Ghost, I'm hit. How bad? Bad enough. They're flanking my position. I can't hold. Kira stopped, turned back toward the river. Reeves grabbed her arm. Don't. We need you here. I'm not leaving him. He sold us out. He's the reason we're in this mess. He's trying to make it right. That counts for something. Ghost, Sterling's voice again. I said I'm not leaving him. She handed Whitmore to Reeves, turned back toward the river. Keep moving. I'll catch up. Ghost. She was already running. She hit the river at full speed. The cold was worse the second time. Her muscles cramped, her lungs seized. But she kept moving, kept fighting, kept pushing toward the sound of gunfire. She found Sterling behind a fallen log. His leg was shattered below the knee, blood everywhere. He was still firing, still fighting, propping himself up with one arm while the other worked the trigger. Ghost, what the hell are you doing here? Saving your sorry ass. Can you shoot? I can shoot until I'm dead. Then shoot. She grabbed him, started dragging him toward the river. He screamed when the cold hit his wound, kept screaming as she dragged him across. But his rifle never stopped firing, never stopped sending rounds downrange. They made it to the far bank. Kira hauled Sterling up, threw him over her shoulder in a fireman's carry. The weight was immense, the pain in her back immediate. She didn't care. Reeves, where are you? 200 meters north. Whitmore is stabilizing, barely, coming to you. She ran, Sterling on her back, his blood soaking through her jacket, his breathing getting weaker with every step. Put me down, he gasped. I'm slowing you down. Shut up. Ghost, leave me. It's what I deserve. What you deserve is a court-martial and 20 years in Leavenworth. But you're not getting off that easy. You're going to live. You're going to face what you did, and you're going to see Addison again. Sterling was quiet for a moment, then barely a whisper. Why? Because that's what we do. We don't leave people behind. Not enemies, not traitors, not fathers who made impossible choices. She found Reeves and Whitmore in a small depression. Whitmore was conscious, wrapped in thermal blankets, his color slightly better. Reeves was already prepping his medical kit. Kira dropped Sterling beside them. Fix him. Reeves looked at Sterling, at the shattered leg, at the blood loss, at the man who'd betrayed them all. He sold us out, and then he saved us. Now fix him. Reeves hesitated for exactly 1 second, then his training took over. He went to work. Tourniquet first, high and tight above the wound. Sterling screamed through gritted teeth. "Femoral's intact," Reeves said, "but the tibia is gone, shattered by the round. He's not walking out of here." Then we carry him. Ghost. "We can't carry two people 15 kilometers. "Watch me." McAllister's voice cut through. "Ghost, I've got visual on you, but we've got a problem." "What?" "QRF is regrouping. They're not pursuing anymore. They're setting up a blocking position between us and the coast. They're going to let us run right into them." Kira closed her eyes. "Calculated distances. Evaluated options." "How many?" "I count 20, maybe more. Heavy weapons. They've got the high ground. Can you take them?" "Some of them. Not all. Not before they cut you to pieces." Whitmore grabbed Kira's arm. His grip was surprisingly strong. "There's another way." "What?" "When they moved me between facilities, they used a vehicle depot about 3 kilometers east of here. If it's still operational, there might be transport. That's farther from the coast, but it gets us wheels. We can't outrun them on foot, not carrying wounded. But if we can get a vehicle, we can punch through the blocking position." Whitmore nodded. Risky, but possible. Kira looked at her team, at Reeves working on Sterling, at McAllister somewhere in the darkness providing overwatch, at Whitmore barely alive but still fighting. "Reeves, how long until Sterling can be moved?" 5 minutes. "I need to stabilize the wound and get fluids in him." "You've got 3. McAllister, new objective. Vehicle depot 3 kilometers east. We're going mobile." "Copy. I'll reposition to cover your movement." Kira knelt beside Sterling. His face was gray, his breathing shallow, but his eyes were clear. "You hear that? We're getting out of here." "I heard." His voice was weak but steady. "Ghost. My daughter. Her name is Addison. She's 8 years old, blonde hair, her mother's eyes. The most beautiful thing I've ever seen. You'll see her again. Maybe, maybe not." He grabbed her hand. "But if I don't, promise me something." "What?" "Don't let her hate me. Tell her I was a good man who made a bad choice. Tell her I loved her more than honor, more than duty, more than my own life." Kira squeezed his hand. "I'll tell her you're a hero who came back from the dead to save his brothers. Because that's what you're going to do. You're going to live, Sterling. Live and tell her yourself." Sterling's hand tightened on hers. Through the pain, through the guilt, through the knowledge of what he'd done, one thought crystallized. Addison would never know the price, but he would carry it forever. And somehow, that was right. Reeves finished his work. He's stable for now, but he needs surgery within 6 hours or he loses the leg. Maybe his life. Then we better move fast. They lifted Sterling between Kira and Reeves. Whitmore managed to walk on his own now, leaning heavily on a makeshift crutch. They moved east toward the depot, toward their only chance. 3 kilometers had never felt so far. Halfway there, McAllister stopped them with a radio call. "Contact! Patrol! 4 hostiles 50 meters ahead." Kira lowered Sterling to the ground, drew her sidearm. "I'll handle it. Alone. Noise discipline. We can't afford a firefight this close to the depot." She moved forward, silent, deadly. The ghost they'd trained her to be. The patrol never saw her coming. First man down with a knife across the throat. Silent. Second man turned at the sound of his partner falling. Kira's blade found his heart before he could raise his weapon. Third man opened his mouth to shout, her hand clamped over it. Knife through his kidney. He died gasping. Fourth man ran. Made it 3 steps before Kira's thrown knife caught him between the shoulder blades. She cleaned her blade on the last man's uniform. Retrieved her throwing knife. Signaled the team forward. Clear. They reached the depot 10 minutes later. Whitmore was right. 3 vehicles, 2 trucks and a jeep. All military, all armored. All salvation if they could get them started. Reeves, check the trucks. McAllister, perimeter security. Whitmore, can you hotwire? Whitmore actually laughed. A broken, painful sound. I was boosting cars before I was a SEAL. Old habit. He limped to the nearest truck. Within 30 seconds, the engine roared to life. Everybody in, now. They loaded Sterling into the back. Whitmore took the passenger seat. Reeves climbed in with Sterling to monitor his vitals. McAllister took position at the mounted gun on the truck bed. Kira got behind the wheel. Coast is 12 kilometers west. Blocking position is between us and the water. We're going straight through. Straight through 20 hostiles with heavy weapons? Reeves asked. You got a better idea? Silence. That's what I thought. Hawk, anything moves, you kill it. With pleasure. Kira floored the accelerator. The truck surged forward, crashing through the depot gate, roaring toward the coast. They hit the blocking position at 60 miles per hour. McAllister opened fire first, the mounted gun tearing through the night. Hostiles scattering, some falling, others returning fire. Rounds pinged off the armored hull. The windshield spiderwebbed but held. Kira drove like a woman possessed, swerving, accelerating, using the truck as a weapon. She hit one hostile dead on, felt the impact, didn't slow down. McAllister kept firing, methodical, professional, every burst finding targets. An RPG streaked past the truck, missing by inches. Hawk, take that launcher out. Working on it. Another burst, a scream in the darkness. The RPG threat neutralized. They punched through the blocking position, left chaos in their wake. Coast is 3 kilometers, Whitmore said, checking the GPS. Beach should be directly ahead. Kira pushed the truck harder, 80 miles per hour on rough terrain, the suspension screaming. The beach appeared ahead, and beyond it, salvation. A rib waiting offshore. Navy crew, professional extraction. Kira skidded the truck to a stop on the sand. Everybody out, move, move, move. They piled out. Reeves and Kira carrying Sterling. McAllister helping Whitmore, running for the water. Behind them, vehicles appeared. Pursuit catching up. Hawk, cover fire. McAllister dropped to one knee. His rifle barked. Once, twice, 3 times. The lead pursuit vehicle swerved, crashed. Move, he shouted. I'm right behind you. They hit the water. The rib crew was already moving toward them, strong hands pulling them aboard. McAllister, come on. McAllister fired 3 more times. Then he turned and ran. A round caught him in the shoulder. He stumbled, kept running. Another round through his thigh. He fell. Kira was already moving back into the water, toward her fallen man. Ghost. No. She reached McAllister, grabbed him, started dragging him toward the boat. Rounds kicked up water around them, the sound of death missing by inches. The RIB crew opened fire, covering them, buying seconds. Kira hauled McAllister into the boat, fell in after him. Go! Go now! The engines roared. The boat surged away from the beach. Behind them, hostiles reached the waterline, fired helplessly at the retreating vessel. An RPG launched, arced toward them. The pilot saw it, turned hard. The RPG exploded 20 meters behind them, close enough to feel the heat, far enough to survive. Then they were out of range, moving at 40 knots toward international waters, toward the submarine waiting in the darkness. Kira collapsed in the bottom of the boat, every muscle screaming, every nerve exhausted. She looked at her team. McAllister was bleeding but conscious, Reeves already working on him. Sterling was pale but breathing, his leg a ruin but his heart still beating. Whitmore lay beside her, thin, broken, but alive. 5 years she'd searched, 5 years she'd planned, 5 years she'd refused to give up. We did it, Whitmore whispered. You actually did it. We did it, Kira corrected. All of us. Whitmore reached out, took her hand. Garrett would be proud. The words hit her like a physical blow. Her brother's face flashed through her mind. His sacrifice, his last words. "I know," she said quietly. "I know he would." The submarine appeared ahead, dark shape against darker water. Safety, survival, home. They'd made it, against all odds, against impossible enemies, against betrayal and bullets and the cold mathematics of death. They'd made it. Kira looked up at the stars, the same stars her brother had seen the night he died, the same stars that had witnessed her promise. "I kept my word, Garrett. I brought them home." The submarine's hatch opened, sailors reaching down to help them aboard. One by one, they descended into the vessel, into safety, into survival, into whatever came next. The hatch closed behind them. The submarine dove, and somewhere above the waves, the ghost vanished into darkness once more. 72 hours later, the submarine surfaced in American waters. Kira stood on the deck, watching the coastline emerge through morning fog. Behind her, the team was being prepped for medical evacuation. Whitmore would live. The doctors said he'd need months of rehabilitation, years of therapy, but he would live. His body was broken, but his spirit remained intact. 5 years of torture hadn't destroyed what made him who he was. McAllister would keep his arm. The bullet had missed the artery by millimeters. He joked about it in the medical bay, said he'd earned another scar to show his grandchildren. Sterling was another story. They'd saved his leg, barely, but the surgeon said he'd never operate again, never run, never be the man he was before. Kira had visited him in the medical bay before they surfaced. He'd been awake, staring at the ceiling, his face a mask of guilt and exhaustion. They found Addison. She'd told him. Sterling had turned his head, hope and fear fighting in his eyes. What? Admiral Thornton made some calls. CIA tracked down the people who took her. She's safe. Scared but safe. They're bringing her to the Naval Hospital. She'll be there when you arrive. Sterling had closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face. The first tears she'd seen from him since the mission began. Is she okay? Did they hurt her? Some bruises, nightmares. But she's alive, Sterling. She's alive because you kept her alive, because you did what you had to do. I betrayed you, betrayed everyone. Yes, you did. Kira hadn't softened the truth. And then you fought to make it right. You took 3 bullets keeping us alive. You're going to spend the rest of your life carrying what you did, but you're going to carry it with Addison beside you. Sterling had grabbed her hand, his grip weak but desperate. Why didn't you leave me at the river? You should have left me. Because that's not who we are. We don't leave people behind, not the ones who deserve saving, and not the ones who don't. That's the difference between us and them. That's what makes us worth fighting for. Sterling had been silent for a long moment. Then quietly, I don't deserve your mercy. Probably not, but mercy isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to be better than our worst moments. You get to choose now, Sterling. Choose who you're going to be for Addison. Choose to be the father she believes you are. She'd left him there, staring at the ceiling, tears still falling. Now, standing on the deck, watching the helicopter approach, Kira felt the weight of everything settling onto her shoulders. The mission was over, but the aftermath was just beginning. Admiral Thornton was waiting on the flight deck when the helicopter landed at the Naval Hospital. His uniform was immaculate, but his face told a different story. He looked like a man who'd aged 10 years in 3 days. Captain Blackwood, Admiral, walk with me. They moved away from the chaos of the medical teams rushing the wounded inside, away from the reporters who'd somehow learned something was happening and were being held back by security. The mission is being classified at the highest level. Officially, it never happened. Whitmore was recovered through diplomatic channels. The facility where he was held suffered an unfortunate fire. No connection to any American military operation. And the team? McAllister and Reeves are getting commendations. Classified commendations that will never appear in any official record, but commendations nonetheless. And Sterling? Thornton was quiet for a moment. That's complicated. What he did, the betrayal, that's court-martial territory. 20 years in Leavenworth, maybe more. But he also saved your lives after he nearly got you killed. He paused. So I'm giving you a choice. What choice? Sterling can face military justice, or he can disappear. Medical discharge, honorable. His record stays clean. He goes home to Addison and never speaks of this again. What's the catch? The catch is that he lives with what he did forever. No punishment, no prison, no external consequence, just the knowledge of what he almost cost you. Every day for the rest of his life. Kira thought about justice versus mercy, about punishment versus redemption. Let him go home. Let him raise Addison. Let him spend every day trying to earn back what he threw away. That's punishment enough. Thornton nodded. I thought you'd say that. They walked in silence for a moment. Then Thornton spoke again. There's something else. The Pentagon wants to reinstate you. Full honors, official recognition, put you in front of Congress, give speeches, the whole show, make you the face of women in special operations. Kira actually laughed. No. I told them you'd say that too. I'm more effective as a ghost. Official operators get recognition. Ghosts get results. That's exactly what you said before I erased you the first time. Still true. Thornton stopped, faced her directly. Then what do you want? What can I give you that actually matters? Kira thought about it, about Garrett, about Whitmore, about all the people she'd lost and all the people she'd saved. I want to keep doing what I do. No recognition, no records, just the mission. There are more people out there like Whitmore, more prisoners, more people who need someone to come for them. I know. That's why I can't stop. Thornton reached into his jacket, pulled out a small box. Then take this at least. Kira opened it. Inside was a gold trident pin. Real gold. Heavy. The kind given to operators who'd earned it through blood and sacrifice. No records. No official recognition. But this says what paper never could. You earned it 9 years ago. You've earned it every day since. And you damn sure earned it in the last 72 hours. Kira took the pin, felt its weight, felt everything it represented. Thank you, Admiral. Thank you, Captain, for reminding me what honor means, for showing me that sometimes the right thing and the legal thing aren't the same, for bringing our people home. He saluted. She returned it. What happens to you now? She asked. The court-martial. Thornton's expression shifted, something like acceptance crossing his face. Reduced rank, forced retirement, effective immediately. 40 years of service and I'm going out under a cloud. I'm sorry. Don't be. I knew the cost when I agreed to help you. I'd do it again without hesitation. Why? Thornton was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. Because I sent Garrett to his death. Because I made choices that cost good people their lives. Because for 5 years, I've been carrying the guilt of what happened. Helping you, helping Whitmore, it doesn't erase that guilt. Nothing ever will. But it reminds me that I can still do good. That the man Garrett believed in, he's still in here somewhere. Kira reached out, touched his arm. Garrett didn't die because of your choices, Admiral. He died because he chose to save me. That was his decision, his sacrifice. You honored it by helping me save Whitmore. That matters. That counts. Thornton nodded slowly, the weight on his shoulders seeming to lift just slightly. Go see Whitmore. Tell him yourself. He deserves to know that his sacrifice, his 5 years of hell, they meant something. They changed something. I will. He paused. What about you? Where does the ghost go now? Kira looked toward the horizon, toward whatever waited beyond it. Wherever I'm needed, there are more people out there, more prisoners, More brothers and sisters waiting for someone to come for them. I'll find them. Alone? If I have to. But I've learned something in the last 72 hours. I don't have to do this alone. There are good people out there, people willing to fight for what's right, even when it costs them everything. I just have to find them. Thornton extended his hand one final time. Good luck, Captain. Stay safe. Safety's not really part of the job description. He almost smiled. No, I suppose it isn't. She shook his hand, then turned and walked away. Walked toward the unknown, toward the next mission, toward whatever hell was waiting for her next. 6 months later, Naval Base Coronado, BUD/S training compound. Hell Week was in progress, day 4. Surf torture. The evolution that broke more candidates than any other. A young woman knelt in the freezing water, shaking uncontrollably. 23 years old, small frame, determination that had carried her through 3 days of hell. But now she was close to breaking, so close. The instructors were in her face, screaming, demanding she quit, telling her she didn't belong, that women weren't built for this, that she should ring the bell and save herself the humiliation. She was cracking, everyone could see it. The other candidates had already written her off. Just another washout, just another woman who couldn't hack it. From the beach, a figure watched. A woman in civilian clothes, leather jacket, coffee in hand, watching the training like she'd seen it before, like she'd lived it. The young woman in the surf looked up. Their eyes met across the distance. Kira gave the slightest nod. Keep going. You've got this. Don't let them win. Something passed between them. Something that couldn't be spoken. Something that existed only in the space between warriors. The young woman found something inside herself, something she didn't know was there, something that had been waiting for this exact moment to reveal itself. She stood up straighter in the water, stopped shaking, looked the instructor dead in the eye. I'm not quitting. The instructor studied her for a long moment, looking for weakness, looking for the crack that would let him break her. He found nothing but steel. Get back in formation. The young woman returned to her place among the candidates. The evolution continued, but something had changed. Everyone who'd seen the exchange knew it. Everyone who'd witnessed that silent communication understood. A torch had been passed. The woman on the beach turned to leave. Her coffee was cold. Her jacket was wet from the spray, but she didn't care. A nearby instructor watched her go. Old school SEAL, 30 years in the teams, 60 years old, the kind of man who'd seen everything. Who was that? A younger instructor asked. The old SEAL was quiet for a moment, his eyes never leaving the retreating figure. She's proof that the best operators are the ones whose names will never be known, whose files have been redacted, whose sacrifices live only in the memories of those who serve beside them. He watched Kira disappear into the morning fog. Some heroes get parades. The best ones get forgotten, and they wouldn't have it any other way. Kira walked into the fog, into obscurity, into the life she'd chosen. Behind her, a new generation was learning what it meant to serve, what it cost to be a SEAL, what it took to become someone who would never quit, never ring the bell, never leave a teammate behind. She thought about Whitmore, recovering somewhere, probably wondering if he'd ever feel whole again. He would. It would take time, take work, take more strength than he thought he had. But he would heal. Because that's what warriors did. They survived. They endured. They came back stronger. She thought about Sterling, somewhere with Addison, trying to rebuild what he'd almost destroyed. Addison would never know the full truth, never know what her father had done or what it had almost cost. She'd just know that he came home, that he loved her, that he'd moved heaven and earth to keep her safe. She thought about McAllister and Reeves, back with their units, carrying classified medals they could never show anyone. They'd tell stories someday, to trusted friends, to fellow operators who understood. They'd talk about the ghost who'd led them into hell and brought them out again. And nobody would believe them. That was okay. The best stories were the ones that sounded like lies. She thought about Thornton, retired now, probably sitting on a porch somewhere, watching the ocean, carrying his guilt like an old friend. He'd find peace eventually, or he wouldn't. Either way, he'd know that he'd done one thing right at the end, one thing that mattered. Kira reached her car, climbed inside, sat there for a moment, staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed. A message from a number she didn't recognize. She opened it. 3 words. They need you. Attached was a file, coordinates, satellite imagery, a face she didn't recognize but would soon know better than her own. Another prisoner, another mission, another chance to keep her promise. She started the engine. The fog swallowed her as she drove away. Somewhere out there someone was waiting, someone who'd given up hope, someone who'd stopped believing rescue was possible. They didn't know it yet, but help was coming. Because that's what ghosts do. They appear when hope dies. They walk through walls that can't be breached. They bring the lost home. Always. Kira Blackwood, call sign, Ghost. The operator who didn't exist. But she was real, and she would always come when called.